Hey, everybody. It's your girl, PJamma, with PJamma Life. And today, we're here to talk about The Bad Batch and Shadow and Bone, the new series on Netflix, based on the books by Lee Bardugo. So why don't we have our fellows introduce themselves? So why don't you tell the people all about it, David?
Hello, everybody. Hope you are enjoying your wonderful, but maybe a little chilly Memorial Day weekend. It's great to be here with you all. And as my old friend Jack Burton would always say, it's always in the reflexes. So.
Okay. And let's move it on over to our fabulous professor of all things Marvel, Pat. Tell the people, hey.
Hey, everybody. Hope everybody's doing good. Everybody's being safe. And as my friend Jeffrey Lebowski used to say, dude with a beverage.
Oh, Lord. So he's going to enjoy a tasty beverage right now. Well, I am parched. And we will get started. Okay, so the first of our picks is The Bad Batch, and this episode is Rampage. Let's show some clips for that.
Why are we going to Ord Mantell? I thought the plan was to lay low.
Not while a bounty hunter's after you. We need to find out why.
Assure your employer, he'll be reunited with Moochie soon. I have my best people on it.
Gear up. We have to go after Moochie. If we don't capture her, we don't get our intel from Sydney.
A rampaging adolescent rancor is not the distraction I was anticipating. You have to challenge the Alpha for authority.
Oh, that I can do!
Your bounty hunter is new to the scene, but has already proven herself to be cunning and ruthless. With someone like her nipping at your heels, you're gonna need two things: friends and money. A bounty hunt being after you. You fellas must be pretty valuable. Don't worry, I'm good with secrets.
All right. Boy, what a jam-packed episode. Why don't we start off with you, Pat? Tell us what you think of this week's episode, Rampage.
It was a good episode. I mean, it was a kind of an introduction of what their, I guess, their career is going to be now post Clone War. Some interesting throwbacks I caught that I'm sure Dave caught too, like the mention of Ord Mantell was where they went, which was where Han ran into those bounty hunters back on Ord Mantell in Empire Strikes Back. So, I mean, it's obviously a bounty hunter hive, as it were, and apparently they had to be there for some reason. But it was kind of interesting to see that thrown back from, like, some of the earlier Star Wars movies. Pretty solid, you know. I mean, it was a little bit more character development. I saw a little bit more foreshadowing with the I'm having trouble with names. The big burly one still having headaches and things kind of going on with that there. So, you know, maybe we're still trying to build that future thing where he's going to have a problem with the chip in his head. You know, maybe giving him problems. I don't know. We'll see where it goes. But you know, as solid as every other episode's been so far.
David?
You know, I think this might be my favorite episode of all of them so far. For a lot of what Pat was saying, but a couple other things too. One, we get a little bit more insight into who Omega is and her value, her ability, her emotional intelligence, and being able to see while the Bad Batch guys, this super, Delta Force-like group of clone commandos, they can't read the situation, but it's pretty obvious to her who Sid is fairly early. So we see her intelligence and what she brings to the table. I love finding a new character. Sid, I think, is fantastic. I don't know who voiced her. I didn't see that in the credits. It sounded like Rita Perlman.
Yeah, it's Rhea Perlman.
It is her.
From Cheers. Yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Matilda.
And Matilda.
I love her in this. That is fantastic. So having a new character with that great voice, we had an origin story that I don't think we ever thought we wanted or really cared about, but we got it with where the Rancor came from. That was kind of fun. That was cute. Wrecker actually showed his value here too. He could beat up a baby Rancor at least. I mean, a 100-pound, or a 90-pound Fennec Shan. He can't stand. He can't compete with her, but toe to toe with a Rancor. And Ord Mantell, absolutely. Pat made a great point. That was a throwaway line in The Empire Strikes Back, but it resonates. And in the Marvel Comics, the daily news strip, the Marvel Comics had that story of what took place on Ord Mantell. I really encourage people to find the comics of the old Marvel that can kind of walk you through that. It was a really fun story. Big win Friday night.
Yeah, and just let me say, hey to a couple people. Tim Windsor. Hey, Tim, good to see you back.
Yeah.
And he's joining us this week, so we're glad he's here with us, and we'll have some other folks come on. I'm sure Dwayne DeMarcos, our old buddy, he's gonna probably pop in. But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode, because the whole episode I was rooting for Moochie to kill everybody. Kill all the bad guys, Moochie. And I was, like, oh no, Moochie is hurt. I just love Moochie. I love that name. I'm almost tempted to change my new kitty's name to Moochie. But do you all think that's the same Rancor as in Return of the Jedi? I mean, that's a long time in between, right?
Well,
yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Yeah, could be.
Oh, Moochie doesn't come to a good end then. Poor Moochie. Oh, anyway, they done made me care about this terrible monster that originally was a terrible monster. So we'll see what happens. I don't think it's the same one. I'm going to say it's a different one. That's Moochie's son who never did right, and he was always out. He was hanging with the bad guys and just like a no good Nick. So that's what
that
we're
was
saying.
Moochie's evil twin, with the iPad.
There you go. Yeah, totally.
See? That's what I'm saying. Because he wasn't trying to eat everybody. She was just, just being her, just doing Moochie. And then they came and messed with her, and so she had to let them know who she was with a fist. So we love Moochie. But I also thought I'm really nervous that Wrecker keeps having these headaches or problems. And this episode didn't help him with that, with him getting bashed about 47 times in the brain skull. So I'm not sure about poor Wrecker. They better not write him off in this series. I don't think that would be very nice, but it definitely was a super fun, like, you know what, David? I might have to agree that it might have been my most favorite episode, because I just was cheering at the screen, and I was like, oh no, Moochie, and just so much emotion, and it was fun. And for once, Omega didn't do something dumb where you were like, oh, this kid. So, I was, but the criminals, the slavers.
Yes.
Where did we see them before?
Clone Wars.
Clone Wars?
Yes.
Clone Wars.
Okay.
You can see the I think is it Zygerians?
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah, they were definitely in the Clone Wars. They might have been in Rebels too, a little bit. I can't remember or not.
Okay.
But they had a great story arc in the Clone Wars where Anakin and Obi-Wan were enslaved for a little bit.
There it is. Yeah.
It was really cool to see those guys. And I can't remember the name of the Falines. you thought Moochie was going to be the green child.
Right.
Those are Phalines, which I don't remember if we saw them much. I know there was like a little bit in Clone Wars, like on the kind of offside, but that was from the Shadows of the Empire, the video game, and that really big push in the late 90s. They had Prince, I call it Zixor, but I think it's Shizor is the way that most people pronounce it. But this group of reptilians, green folks, the Phalines. So you had two of that species there that use their pheromones to manipulate people. So it was kind of fascinating to see those two guys in this as well.
Well, what happened? Because it didn't look like they manipulated anybody.
Not in this one, no. But I mean, just think as a species.
They had really good deodorant on, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or that's a mean perfume they got in their skin.
Something like that.
Yeah, because I was wondering, because I was like, they kind of, the name seemed familiar, but I couldn't place, where they fell into the universe. So yeah. I just think it's great that, and Jabba the Hutt's right-hand man makes an appearance in this, who's kind of the caretaker of Moochie. Right. And so that was really, he's been in what, 3 so far? So I think he's in the original, and then he's in Mandalorian, and now he's in the Bad Batch. Right. So that's really interesting that his character is having some longevity. I think in the fall, he didn't come to a good end in the Mandalorian.
No, so we had 2 RIP characters in this episode with Moochie and Bib.
Yeah. So, wah, 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 wah. That's not Moochie. That is not
Moochie's evil
Moochie.
Twin. Right.
Okay, so the Bad Batch episode.
Yep.
That was really good. So we really like that. So let's move on to the next series from Netflix and their big budget. You can tell is Shadow and Bone. The Grishaverse finally come to life. So let's take a look at a clip.
I spent years thinking I'd find a way out. Around the fold, to go somewhere where no one cares where I'm from. I'm old enough to know the only way out is through.
What are you?
A map maker, sir.
Lena! I'm sorry.
What I haven't said in this letter, Mal, what I've been trying to write among all these scattered words is that I'm afraid. I'm scared, Mal. No great miracle was coming. It's why we had each other.
All
right. So this is a big series of books and has a huge cult following for this series. So let's see. Let's start off. Who wants to go first and talk about the series?
Well, I'm happy to. I found this to be, really on an epic scale. I really liked what they tried to create this universe. I mean, there was obviously, the antagonist here. You remember maybe from Prince Caspian, you see him, and a little bit of it. It reminded me a little bit, although much, much better than say the Golden Compass set of books. I found this to be a really kind of entertaining story. I thought the acting was good. Special effects were fun. I love the costumes. I was really kind of, the imagery of this show grabbed me maybe a little bit more so than the story. But nonetheless, I've really enjoyed watching the episodes this week in preparation for it. So yeah, I watched it once. I'm rewatching it, making sure I can catch the fine points. I just thought it was a fun thing, and it was nothing like I expected. I really expected, like with that name, I was going for a 1980s, buddy cop movie that you would think of seeing. Shadow and Bone, like Tango and Hooch or whatever. That was what I was expecting it. I mean, but no, it was. I thought this was a really good show. B+ for me at least.
So let me give, before you start, Pat, let me give a little breakdown of what Shadow and Bone is about. It's about it's a whole bunch, but the main two are Alina and Mal, Alina Starkov and Mal. They are orphans who are trying to make their way in the world. Alina and try to cross the Fold, which is this kind of shadow realm that's full of monsters and bad news. And so the only way to get from the country Ravka is split by the Fold to West Ravka and East Ravka. The only way to the other side where goods and services are is through the Fold. And so they go into the military to go into the Fold. Alina then figures out that she has a magical power. And she is called the Sun Summoner because she is a creature of light. There is also, she meets General Kerrigan, who's a shadow summoner, if you were. And he takes her under his wing and has a plan for what they are called are Grishas, which are people who can there's different types of magic wielders, if you were, healers, people who can manipulate energy, and then special types like them who can manipulate elements. So it's kind of like every young adult novel nowadays with a girl who's being wooed by two guys, one good, one not good. And you're trying to figure out the motivations of the people involved. And will light overcome darkness, or will darkness snuff out the light? Pretty much. That's what this is about. There's another sub-story of 3 ne'er-do-wells who are trying to make their way. And then another
the most interesting portion of the book, by the way.
Yeah,
most interesting portion of the TV show, I would say.
So when the 3 what is it, Kaz, and then
the Crows.
Yeah. What's the
they were calling them the Crows. Oh, I can't remember.
Yeah. They're the Crows, but each of them also wield a power.
Yeah.
And they're like 3 very poor people who have lived by their wits, and they're trying to connect with the Sun Summoner and try and actually sell her to another person. And then there's another couple, is another Grisha and a Felusian who is the Grisha, and then they all get together. Okay, it's a lot, but it'll make sense kind of if you watch it. So it's a magical young adult universe with a lot of moving parts, and the reason it is because this first season mushes together two of the series into one. And so that's why you have these kind of 3 distinct stories, which I hear there's talk of spinning off the Crow story into their own story and then getting back to the original story as another story. So we'll see if that all comes. They haven't yet determined if it's going to get a second season, but I think it's gotten a lot of good reviews, so it might get a second season and another series to adapt. So, Pat, you want to talk about it? And I'll talk about what I think.
Well, I thought it was good. I mean, it was a little derivative on some of the things. I mean, but there's only so much fantasy that hasn't been done at this point, and everything is tending to have shades of Avatar. Was the things that I picked up. You got the firebenders, and you've got the airbenders, and you got, I mean, there were some things that were really kind of hitting me. I mean, wearing certain color codes, and the steampunk look of everything was really nice. I did enjoy that. The whole universe they decided to plop this into, basically. Just just on the cusp of an industrial society. It looked like, you got guns, you've got steam engines to a certain extent. It looked like, I want to say, 19th century Prussia, just basically on the way that they were kind of dressed, the way they were kind of doing things. There was a lot of that kind of stuff going on. I did enjoy the Crows a lot more than the Alina story. They were interesting. They had a lot more things going on. I mean, it wasn't this earth-shaking fantasy, good. Actually, literally dark versus light, which we got kind of going on between the two main magic wielders, as it were. And you have these people just trying to get along, and they all had their little things, their own baggage they were dragging along. Some of them was just a suitcase. Some of them was an Ivanka Trump, matched set of luggage. I mean, they all had their things going on, and they were much more interesting to me than perhaps the Alina character and the general. Mm-hmm. They were okay. I did enjoy the side story between the witch and the witch hunter, or that was a nice little side story. I enjoyed that quite a bit. Like I said, I found the filler material probably as good, if not better, than the main story, but I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, and I thought it was a little too jam-packed with stories. So I think if they would have went with one or the other, I think they would have been fine. But then they tried to cram 3 stories into one, and you were constantly trying to keep up with each of the stories. Yeah. But Jesper is the other crow's name. So it's Kaz, Jesper, and Inez were the crows. And they And so I thought it's very Russian, right? It's a very Russian look. Mm-hmm. It's a very Russian kind of themes, story, a very Russian kind of sensibility about it. If you it kind of also reminded me of, if you watch stuff like Daybreak or Night Watch or the Keanu Reeves series, the John Wick.
Okay.
It's kind of in that very Russian kind of storytelling. And so, which I enjoy. I've got into kind of some Russian storytelling when John Wick first came out. And I think it's a very different from, American style movies. And you can see that it's a little darker. It's a little more nuanced. And, the people aren't black and white. I mean, even everyone has, some kind of motivation. And I thought that, I kind of liked the General Kerrigan's character. I thought he wasn't all one thing. I thought he was at the beginning, his intentions were right. And then, of course, something traumatic happens and it just sends him down a difficult path. Yeah. And you learn more about his story. It was like halfway through, you don't understand, who he really is, which I thought was really good to kind of. So at the beginning, I was like, oh, okay, I like this. I like him. He's just trying to protect his people. He wants to make sure they're not harmed, that they're not discriminated against. And you know, he's just trying to find somebody like him to, you know, make his way with, right? Well, then you come to find out it's something else. He almost did it, but I think to me, his whole motivation was, okay, I want to get your agreement, and I want to work with you in a nice way. But if you don't, I'm just going to take it.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, he's not a good guy at all.
So does True Colors.
Is really messed up. So then, but you know, I thought Ben Barnes, there's a clever little scene when he's revealed and the person takes the picture down, and it's a picture of him, and it's a nice nod to he was in the movie A Picture of Dorian Gray. And so when that was, it's kind of like, oh, Dorian Gray. So I thought that was a nice little Easter egg that they had a wink for him. And frankly, since he was in, what was that children's movie? Was it
No, Prince Caspian.
Yeah.
Caspian, yeah. I was like, he grew up fine. So I was like, wow. Man. But it was the motivations is what really were interesting to me, because you don't see that in a lot of novels, you know, that are made into movies, where they, you know, usually it's very good and evil, right? You know, we have the Hogwarts, and then we have, you know, Gryffindors versus the Slytherin, and then we have, you know, Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader. You know,
it's funny you mentioned Hogwarts, because if you didn't catch his mother was Madam Hooch from the Harry Potter movies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I kept looking at her, and I was
she's the one that taught Harry Potter how to ride a broomstick.
Yeah. Okay. And so she, you know, but you know, I find that a lot of English characters get used in like movie after movie after movie. It's
I think they got a pool of like 50 people they work from. Yeah, it's like 50 total, and they just kind of move them around. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But I think you could tell this is Netflix produced, because the production values are way up here. You know, that everything just looked beautiful. The sets look gorgeous. The costumes look gorgeous. I thought the women were all beautiful. And just the photography was just beautiful. And you know, really gave, and if you notice, it wasn't really bright. It was, you know, even though it was very rich and lush, the lighting wasn't like a bright light. It was kind of, it was kind of a brownish kind of, you know, sepia tone. Yeah. And so I thought, that's very Russian too, you know, but it made the colors then just pop. Yeah. And so, you know, if you're a fan of costumes like me, and especially this style of costumes, I was like, just give me, I wanted every outfit. I mean, male, female, even the peasants or the palace people had cool looking outfits on. Yeah. So it just was fantastic. And in the books, I haven't finished reading. I'm reading it to review on my show, on my channel, the books, and the colors make sense in the book. So it's a very complicated world, and the author has built like a whole universe with these books. So, and there are a lot of them. So I'm not gonna be able to get through all of them, but they definitely, I think you should pick up and read, because they are very different. the book and the TV show are very different.
The
So,
world building here, I think, is something that makes this stand out over some fantasy and sci-fi. I think the fact that you can see that this came from some thoughtful literature with
yeah,
this. There is such a richness in what was created. Even if you're not as big into some of the magic stuff as some people are, the look of it, the
yeah,
acting, the character, it really was wonderful. And I think Pat's comment about some of the what we might call like the supporting cast,
mm-hmm.
man, I think there was such the characters and the depth of who they are and just trying to make it in this world. I don't think you can underestimate the value of them in this. I did find them as entertaining too. You've got your leads, and that's where the big driver, but these people just to the side, that's pretty cool. So it's like, hey, what was Rosencrantz and Guildenstern doing? There you go. And that's what it's doing.
Good one there. That's a great analogy.
Yeah. And Dwayne DeMarco said, can't wait to see the comparison between the book and the series. Well, that'll be coming up soon on PJamma Life. And so I think it's something that the family could watch. I didn't feel like it was something that was too gory, children couldn't see. But I mean, there are some adult themes. So, I think parents need to be aware of that. But I think it's also same as Harry Potter, same as, a lot of these stories today. When you talk about young adult fiction, there are some more mature themes. So, but definitely it's a beautiful, interesting, and I look forward to see where they're going to go, because there's a lot of places they can go with this. So so that does it for us this week. We have any final words on any other of the two series that we watched today?
Just the Bad Batch continues to deliver. Dave Filoni is still a genius, and there you go.
Well, and I think with thinking about the Bad Batch, I think the questions here is we're learning a little bit more about Omega. Is it just a level of emotional intelligence and insight that she brings to the group, or is Filoni kind of having maybe a clone that is force sensitive? Is kind of Omega like an Ezra Bridger character with this? Because she picked out Sid pretty quick. And I think she's just a little bit maybe more observant than the fellas. But you never know. Maybe she's stronger with the force than what we've seen with other clones. So it's another really fun piece of this world to see what happens.
Or maybe because she's a woman, she's just smarter than these guys.
I don't think that's it.
So much, Pam, but oh man,
I don't think that's it. No.
That's probably it. Yeah, so definitely.
We'll have the male chauvinist rebuttal next week. But
yeah. After show.
Of course.
That's right.
I know you all should come and hear our after show and later, because that's when it really gets interesting.
Here we go.
So let's talk about what we're going to be watching for June. And so next week we're going to watch The Bad Batch, of course, and The Force Awakens from a Nap, a new short from The Simpsons, and I believe it's out next week. If it is, Raya and the Last Dragon on Disney Plus. So we're going to be looking at all Disney Plus next week. On 6/12, it's time. We're going to watch Bad Batch, but also Loki hits the scene on I think it comes out that Wednesday of that week, but on the 12th we'll be watching Loki, Bad Batch, and the new musical by Lin-Manuel Miranda. Is that his Lin-Manuel Miranda,
Yes.
Into the Heights. And so we'll be checking that out. I think it's going to be great. You know, he did the fantastic and amazing Hamilton.
Right.
So this is his next big project. I'm looking forward to that. And on the 19th, we're going to continue for the rest of their series. The Bad Batch and Loki will be every week until they end. And then on the 19th, we're going to pick up that series that's fantastic, Lupin, on Netflix. It's the second part of the first season. So that ought to be fantastic. And then on the 6/29, we're going to watch the Bad Batch, Loki, and the series on Netflix, Ragnarok. So look forward to that. So fellas, you want to leave the people with your final message?
I would just tell you, be safe, and life is too short to drink bad beer.
Boy, now that
or bad
those are
wine.
words to live by there. Life is too short to drink bad beer. Happy Memorial Day, everyone. Enjoy yourself. Have fun with family and friends. And stay tuned to as much Star Wars as you can.
All right. And you know what we say here still? Get a vaccine. Socially distance. Wash your hands. Wear a mask where needed. And also, you know, I had a friend who had a negative incident with the police officer. And so we wish him, you know, health and safety. But also, Black lives still matter out here. Please leave Black men alone. And so next week we'll be back, and take care, everyone. We'll see you next week.